In the year 1337, relations between England and France entered a prolonged period of conflict that historians later named the Hundred Years' War. The origins of this rivalry lay in dynastic claims to the French throne, disputes over territory in regions such as Aquitaine, and long-standing political competition between the two kingdoms. Over the course of the 14th and early 15th centuries, this conflict reshaped both nations, influencing royal authority, noble power, military organization, and economic stability. By the early 1400s, the war had already passed through several phases, with fortunes shifting back and forth. England had experienced periods of success under earlier kings, but internal instability and weak leadership had often undermined those gains. This situation changed significantly with the accession of Henry V in 1413. Henry V inherited a kingdom that was relatively stable domestically and was determined to revive England's claim to France through renewed military action. Unlike many of his predecessors, he combined careful planning with strong personal leadership and a clear political objective. In 1415, Henry V launched a major campaign in northern France, seeking to assert his dynastic rights and re-establish English authority. This campaign led to one of the most famous battles of the medieval period, the Battle of Agincourt. Despite being outnumbered, the English army achieved a decisive victory, largely due to tactical discipline, effective use of longbowmen, and favorable terrain. Agincourt did not end the war, but it dramatically strengthened Henry V's position and enhanced his reputation across Europe. Following Agincourt, Henry V continued his campaigns in France with considerable success. English forces gradually expanded their control, and French political divisions further weakened resistance. These developments culminated in the Treaty of Troyes in 1420, which recognized Henry V as heir to the French throne and effectively disinherited the French Dauphin. However, in 1422, while still in France, Henry V died unexpectedly. His death marked a sudden turning point in the conflict. The English crown passed to his infant son, Henry VI. The future of England's war effort, its claim to France and the stability of the monarchy, now rested on a child king, setting the stage for one of the most challenging reigns in English history. Henry VI was born on the 6th of December 1421 at Windsor Castle, during one of the most triumphant moments in English medieval history. His father, Henry V, had recently secured recognition as heir to the French throne through the Treaty of Troyes, and the English monarchy appeared stronger than it had been for generations. The birth of a male heir ensured dynastic continuity and strengthened the vision of a united Anglo-French monarchy. However, this sense of stability was short-lived. In August 1422, when Henry VI was not yet a year old, Henry V died unexpectedly while campaigning in France. Upon Henry V's death, the English crown passed automatically to his son, who became King of England at 9 months old. Shortly afterward, Henry VI was also proclaimed King of France, following the death of Charles VI of France later in 1422. This dual monarchy, established by treaty rather than conquest alone, placed Henry VI in the unprecedented position of being king of two realms from infancy. In England, his legitimacy was unquestioned, but in France the situation was far more complex. Large sections of the French population rejected the Treaty of Troyes and instead supported the Dauphin, who claimed the throne as Charles VII. As a result, Henry's French kingship depended almost entirely on continued military occupation and cooperation with Burgundian allies. Because Henry VI was too young to rule, a regency system was established to govern in his name. Rather than appointing a single regent, authority was divided among a council to prevent any one individual from dominating the government. The most powerful figures within this system were the king's uncles. John, Duke of Bedford, was appointed regent of France and took responsibility for defending English interests across the Channel. He was an experienced soldier and administrator, and under his leadership, English rule in northern France was maintained with relative effectiveness. Humphrey, Duke of Gloucester, Henry VI's youngest uncle, acted as protector of the realm in England, though his authority was limited by the council. The Regency Council itself was composed of senior nobles, bishops, and royal officials who collectively managed the kingdom's finances, justice, and diplomacy. This system functioned reasonably well during the early years, largely because Henry V had left behind a strong administrative structure and clear policy priorities. In France, the situation during Henry VI's minority was far more volatile. Although English forces controlled large areas of northern France, including Paris, their authority was constantly challenged. The French resurgence that had begun during the later years of Henry V continued, particularly after the execution of Joan of Arc in 1431, which failed to suppress French resistance as the English had hoped. John, Duke of Bedford, worked tirelessly to preserve English dominance, securing alliances, organizing defenses, and overseeing the administration of occupied territories. However, the English war effort was costly, and maintaining control over distant lands placed immense strain on English finances. Henry VI's coronations during this period were carefully planned political events intended to reinforce his authority. In 1429, at the age of 8, he was crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey. 2 years later, in 1431, Henry was crowned King of France in Paris. This coronation was designed to demonstrate that the dual monarchy remained intact and that the English claim to France was still valid. Throughout the Regency period, Henry VI's personal upbringing was deliberately shaped by his guardians and tutors. Contemporary accounts describe him as quiet, gentle, and obedient, qualities admired in a private individual but potentially problematic in a medieval ruler expected to command armies and dominate powerful nobles. By the mid-1430s, the limitations of ruling through a council became increasingly apparent. Financial pressures mounted as the war in France dragged on, and political divisions within England deepened. The death of John, Duke of Bedford in 1435, removed the most capable defender of English interests in France and marked a turning point in the war. Without his leadership, English control began to erode more rapidly. Meanwhile, Henry VI remained largely isolated from political realities, shielded by his household and advisors from direct involvement in government. In 1437, when Henry VI reached the age of 16, he was declared to have reached his majority and began to rule in his own name. The Regency Council was dissolved, and the responsibility for governing England and sustaining the dual monarchy now rested with the young king himself. As Henry VI assumed personal rule in 1437, his kingship quickly revealed the traits shaped during his childhood and regency. These instincts strongly influenced the next phase of his reign, beginning with his marriage and the rise of a small group of favored advisors who would dominate English politics during the 1440s and early 1450s. Henry VI's marriage was closely connected to his desire to end the long and expensive war with France. After years of stalemate and gradual English decline, negotiations began for a diplomatic settlement. In 1445, Henry married Margaret of Anjou, a French noblewoman related to the French royal house. The marriage was intended to support a peace agreement rather than to bring immediate territorial or financial advantage. Unlike earlier royal marriages, Margaret arrived without a dowry, and the settlement included secret clauses promising the return of the strategically important regions of Maine and Anjou to French control. This agreement proved deeply unpopular in England once it became known. Many English nobles and members of Parliament viewed the surrender of territory as a betrayal of Henry V's legacy and of the sacrifices made during decades of war. The king, however, was personally committed to peace and relied heavily on trusted advisors to manage the political consequences. Margaret of Anjou herself quickly became an influential figure at court. Intelligent, determined, and politically aware, she took an active interest in government, particularly as it became clear that her husband lacked decisiveness and confidence. During this period, royal authority increasingly centered on a small inner circle, most notably William de la Pole. Suffolk emerged as Henry VI's chief minister and closest political confidant. He played a central role in arranging the king's marriage and negotiating peace with France, which tied his political fortunes closely to policies that were already controversial. Under Suffolk's influence, the government pursued peace at almost any cost, even as English military positions in France collapsed further. Alongside Suffolk rose Edmund Beaufort, a member of the Beaufort family and a leading royal favourite. Somerset was closely associated with the final failures of the English war effort in France, including the loss of Normandy in 1450. Although these defeats were the result of long-term structural problems, blame increasingly focused on Somerset and those around the king. Henry VI's unwavering loyalty to his favourites made matters worse, as he refused to remove them from power despite widespread criticism. In 1450, popular anger exploded in the rebellion known as Jack Cade's Revolt, which directly criticised corruption, poor governance, and the influence of royal favourites. Although the rebellion was suppressed, it exposed the depth of dissatisfaction with Henry VI's rule. Suffolk became the primary target of this resentment. In 1450, he was impeached by Parliament and exiled, but before reaching the continent he was captured and murdered at sea. His death removed one of the king's closest supporters, but did nothing to resolve the underlying problems of government. Somerset soon replaced Suffolk as the dominant figure at court, further polarizing political opinion. Opposition to the king's advisors increasingly coalesced around Richard, a powerful noble with a strong claim to the throne through descent from Edward III. York had served loyally in France and Ireland and saw himself as a natural leader capable of restoring order and effective governance. He was particularly hostile to Somerset, whom he blamed for military failures and for monopolizing royal favor. As Henry VI continued to protect Somerset, tensions between York and the court escalated. The situation reached a critical point in 1453. That year brought two momentous events: the final loss of English territory in France, effectively ending the 100 Years' War, and the birth of Henry VI's only son, Edward of Westminster. While the birth of an heir should have secured the dynasty, it coincided with a devastating personal crisis for the king. Henry VI suffered a severe mental breakdown, rendering him incapable of speech, recognition, or decision-making for over a year. He reportedly failed even to respond to the news of his son's birth. With the king incapacitated, the question of who should govern became unavoidable. The collapse of royal authority allowed Richard, Duke of York, to step forward as the most suitable alternative. In 1454, he was appointed Protector of the realm, effectively ruling England in Henry VI's name. York used this position to remove Somerset from power and imprison him, and to attempt reforms aimed at restoring financial discipline and political stability. Henry VI eventually recovered his mental faculties in late 1454 or early 1455. Upon his recovery, he immediately restored Somerset to favour and dismissed York from the protectorship. The political tensions that had built up during Henry VI's personal rule finally broke into open conflict in the mid-1450s. The rivalry between the supporters of the king and those aligned with Richard, Duke of York, had become irreconcilable, driven by disputes over royal authority, control of government, and responsibility for England's failures in France. The first open fighting began in 1455 at the Battle of St. Albans. Richard, Duke of York, supported by his allies, confronted royal forces loyal to Henry VI and Margaret of Anjou. The battle was short but decisive, ending with a Yorkist victory and the death of several leading Lancastrian nobles, including Edmund Beaufort, Duke of Somerset. Henry VI himself was present and was captured during the fighting. Once again, the king became a political prize rather than an active ruler. York was restored to influence, but the conflict had only just begun. Over the next several years, England experienced an uneasy alternation between fragile peace and renewed violence. Henry VI remained king, but his authority depended entirely on which faction controlled him at any given moment. Queen Margaret emerged as the driving force of the Lancastrian cause, determined to protect the rights of her son, Edward of Westminster. She actively gathered supporters, raised armies, and sought allies both within England and abroad. Her leadership contrasted sharply with Henry's passivity and further emphasized his limitations as a ruler. By 1460, the war entered a more decisive phase. Richard was killed at the Battle of Wakefield, but leadership of the Yorkist cause passed to his eldest son, Edward, Earl of March. Edward proved to be a far more dynamic and militarily capable leader than Henry VI. In 1461, following a series of victories, Edward marched on London and was proclaimed king as Edward IV. Shortly afterward, Edward secured his position with a crushing victory over the Lancastrians at the Battle of Towton, one of the largest and bloodiest battles ever fought on English soil. Henry VI and Margaret of Anjou were forced into exile. Henry fled first to Scotland and later to France, while Margaret continued to seek foreign support for a Lancastrian restoration. During these years, Henry lived a marginal existence, dependent on allies and largely removed from political decision-making. In contrast, Edward IV established firm control over England, restoring a measure of order and stability after years of civil war. For nearly a decade, Henry VI remained a displaced king, but the political situation shifted again in the late 1460s. Edward IV's reign began to unravel due to conflicts with former allies, most notably Richard Neville, known to history as the Kingmaker. Warwick had been instrumental in placing Edward on the throne, but later turned against him after disputes over foreign policy and royal marriages. In a dramatic reversal of alliances, Warwick joined forces with Margaret of Anjou, uniting former enemies against Edward IV. In 1470, Warwick invaded England, forcing Edward IV to flee into exile. With Yorkist power temporarily collapsed, Henry VI was restored to the throne in what is known as the redemption of Henry VI. In reality, this return to power was largely symbolic. Henry was mentally fragile and politically inactive, and real authority rested with Warwick and the Lancastrian leadership. Nevertheless, for the first time since 1461, Henry was once again recognized as king. The restoration was short-lived. Edward IV returned to England in 1471 with a small but determined force, quickly regaining support. Warwick was defeated and killed at the Battle of Barnet, and shortly afterward, the Lancastrian army suffered a final devastating defeat at the Battle of Tewkesbury. Margaret of Anjou was captured, and Henry VI's only son was killed, extinguishing the direct Lancastrian line. Henry VI was imprisoned in the Tower of London. Within weeks, in May 1471, he died in captivity. Although official accounts claimed he died of natural causes, most contemporaries and later historians believed he was murdered on Edward IV's orders. His death marked the end of his troubled reign and the collapse of the Lancastrian cause. After the death of Henry VI, the crown of England passed securely to Edward IV. His reign marked a shift away from factional weakness toward a stronger and more centralized monarchy.